I'm from the University of Central Florida. We have lots of parallels with UNCC. We're an urban institution. We're intended to serve our community. The good news is we're growing. The bad news is we're growing. That's what's happening to us. We have all the same kinds of issues, I think. We've a faculty like you, I'm sure, is committed to teaching excellence. The only difference is a matter of scale, and I'll talk to you about that. Now, I got into this business many, many years ago. I taught multivariate statistics, applied statistics, almost all of my life. The hardest course to teach is the beginning statistics course for students who don't have any knowledge of statistics. It's ghastly. Well, a major professor at Wisconsin said, it's the hardest course you'll ever teach. I said, oh no, Chad, it'll be so easy. Be a breeze. It's terrible. And one of the worst things to teach is the notion of a sampling distribution. It's very, very difficult to get people, young students, who are into statistics, used to heuristics, grind it in, crank it out, and get the answers, to understand the concept of a sampling distribution. 20 years ago, one of my students, who was a chairman of the math department at Valencia Community College, came to me and said, Chuck, I have this VSH tape that I made. You remember VSH, don't you? Yeah, you remember that. And he said, what it is an animation of the development of a sampling distribution. And I said, Chris, well, play it in class. And he played it for the students. And they said, after they looked at it, they said, play it again. And we played it again. And then we played it a third time. And then they said, oh, is that all there is to that? And I said, damn it. Because I had been trying my whole life to get them to understand the concept of a sampling distribution. And the interesting thing about that is, after that incident, the level of conversation in the class changed. It changed from them understanding a concept when they did that, from the heuristic of what do I do when I put these numbers in and get an answer, and what does the answer mean? It changed the whole level of the conversation. From that point on, I said, well, maybe there is something to this technology. Maybe there is something, because it did, in a heartbeat, something that I couldn't do. Now, that's confounded with a lot of things. Things aren't happening on our campuses. This is happening on our campuses, is it not? I assume at UNCC it's like it is at UCF. They're like whales pinging each other with the cell phone. Everywhere they go, they're on their cell phone talking to each other, calling each other. And I had an incident the other day that brought this home to me. How many parking garages do you have? I don't know. We have 9. We have 9 parking garages, okay? I was talking to a student in the elevator, and she was on her cell phone and said, no, thank you, I've got one. And I said, I have to ask, what's this about? So, there was someone in the parking lot, in a parking place, about to leave, okay? They were calling their circle of friends to tell them that they were leaving the parking place, that if any of them were cruising, they wouldn't leave the parking place until one of their friends came and got the parking place. And probably they had it on GPS. They probably had the coordinates of that. So, would you ever think of doing that with your colleagues? Hardly. So they're communicating continually, not only about that, but about us, about our teaching, about our quality, how much we suck in the classroom. I mean, they're communicating about that. So, now there is an adage attributed to St. Augustine that I'm sure no one at UNC has ever experienced, but I have, and it goes something like, I thought I understood it until I tried to teach it. Has that ever come home to haunt you? It has certainly come home to haunt me. I've been up there moving my lips, and I essentially had nothing to say. They didn't know it, but I knew it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. And the other thing that happens is, in class when you nail it, when you absolutely nailed it, there's not a better feeling in the world, is there? It's like, if you'll excuse me, academic afterglow. It is just wonderful. You know you've nailed it, and there's nothing worse than when you blow it. There is nothing worse, and you haven't done it, but I certainly have done it. Now, what technology is doing is it's causing the great unbundling. It's unbundling everything. It's just happening everywhere. Music. It's completely taken apart the music business. You know, Andrew Keene wrote a book called The Cult of the Amateur, decrying the fact that the music business has been wrecked by technology. What he neglected to mention was that music was probably one of the most corrupt industries, you know, in the history of this country. Books. It's unbundling books, is it not? The whole thing. Here's a book. Here's a children's book published by CreateSpace. CreateSpace is the publishing arm of Amazon.com. This book was in the long tail, Chris Anderson's long tail. It just appeared on Amazon. Suddenly it got very popular because people began to notice it, began to talk about it on Facebook, and now a publisher wants to pick it up. Interesting. Someone published the book themselves. Okay. This is interesting. Newsweek. Brain freeze. How the deluge of information paralyzes our ability to make good decisions. Are you experiencing that? Aren't you on listservs where someone has raised an innocuous question and someone has responded with a 3,000-word thought-out response, and you say, don't you have any work to do? Delete. Yeah. In terms of this, Herman Simon has a good quote. In an information-rich world, the wealth of information means a dearth of something else, a scarcity of whatever it is that information consumes. What information consumes is rather obvious. It consumes attention of the recipients. And hence, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. Isn't that interesting? We have so much to pay attention to that we tend not to pay attention to any of it. It happens to be this morning when I was having breakfast, I looked at the USA Today, and the Journal of Data Computing and Analysis has pulled an article that decried the federal government study of global warming because, gee, somebody copied and pasted from Wikipedia and put it in the article. Hello? Hello? I mean, that's unbundling a little bit too, okay? What else? Oh, my favorite, academic publishing. So the provost is here, so I'll say this, okay? You write a manuscript and you submit it to a journal. 9 months later, a review comes back that requires extensive revisions. 6 months later, you get the revisions done and you submit it to the article. 2.5 years later, your cutting-edge journal article is published. However, it's not cutting edge anymore because people have blogged about it, they've talked about it, you know, the bloggers have chewed you up and spit you out, okay? That whole process to me seems to be becoming arcane in our environment. That seems to me to be happening. My students write me on the questionnaires, why do we need semesters? Which is a good question. You know, why do we need semesters? Now they're writing, why do we need courses? Why do we need courses for, you know, the begin and end? Okay. All right. Here's a quote. One more unbundling quote. The U.S. market for self-paced learning predicts a 22% compound decrease in the number of students attending traditional classrooms exclusively, and an 11% increase in students taking online or blended courses. The number of students taking classes exclusively on campus will decline from 14 million in 2010 to 4 million in 5 years later. Well, I don't know if that's spin or not, but that certainly gets my attention in terms of what's going to happen. So we're dealing with all of that. Now, whether you call it e-learning, distance learning, asynchronous learning networks, hybrid learning, blended learning, re-engineered courses, distance education, Web 2.0, yada, yada, blah, blah, whatever it is, we've been evaluating at UCF for 17 years. And it puts me in mind of my favorite Russian parable. When you dance with a bear, you can't quit when you're tired. It's been changing, it is morphing. What it was 17 years ago is nothing like what it is now. What it will be 2 years from now is nothing like it is today. The train is leaving. The train is really leaving. Now, we have a new provost, Tony Waltrip from UNC, okay, VP for research. He's been here a year. And he says, Chuck, when I think about what you guys are doing in hybrid learning, blended learning, online learning, when I think about the net generation, when I think about our financial problems, it doesn't bother me a bit. I sleep like a baby. Sleep for an hour, wake up and cry for an hour, and so on and so forth through the night. All right, here we go. This is UCF. This has no ring to you, but I use this to torture people in Minnesota. Looks very much like your campus. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. In 1970, I drove up in a 2-lane road in my red Volkswagen from the University of Wisconsin with my wife to Florida Technological University, a 5-building university in East Central Florida in a sand pit. And my wife turned to me and said, "What the hell have you done? Where have you taken me?" I said, "Oh, no, no, baby. It's got all kinds of potential. Don't worry about it. In 2 years, we'll be at Stanford, so we'll be there." Well, 41 years later, Stanford has yet to call. They have a few minutes. They could do it. But today, UCF is 56,000 students. It's the second largest university in the country, second only to Arizona State. Okay? The good news is we're growing, like you. The bad news is we're growing. Our classes are getting larger. You know, we're having to deal with, oh my goodness, something I think happened here last year. You had to turn away students. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. We have to learn to deal with this. The only way we can survive, in a sense, and flourish is in a technology-enhanced environment. So we're like you. We're very much like you. Now, this is interesting. This is our FTE, okay, latest account. Here we are, online, video, hybrid, and our face-to-face instruction. Do you see what's happening? The face-to-face growth is going flat. All of the growth is in the technology area. It's basically turning into a flipped university. You know, good, bad, or indifferent. Virtually, the thing that your provost said is, the bad news from Raleigh is, you want to build a building? Fine, find a donor. Find a donor, because that's the only way you will build a building. So this is what's happening. So now we have to talk about, what do we want our university to be? Because all of the growth is coming online. Now, sit down and talk about that. What does it mean for the university? How far do you want to go? One of the things that's beginning to float is the growth potential is unlimited. Is that good? Maybe. Maybe not. Here's the thing. There's a guy at MIT, Jay Forrester. Have you ever heard of him? He works in complex systems dynamics. He's got 3 adages. First of all, when you introduce an intervention into a complex system, you really can't anticipate how it's going to ripple through. You really have no idea. Secondly, the results are always counterintuitive. And thirdly, there are going to be side effects, both positive and negative. You know negative side effects? Have you ever raised children? Then you've experienced negative side effects. Okay? All right. There will be negative side effects. Let me give you one example. Your provost mentioned Banner. We have another one. We have blended courses. Typical blended course. Monday face-to-face, online. Second course on Wednesday, online. Third course on Friday, online. Do you know what the ERP system did? Final exam time, the first time, it put 3 different courses, students, in the same room for 3 different examinations at the same time. It had no way to recognize a blended course. That was an interesting side effect. Students freaking about taking their examination, and they couldn't. A really interesting phenomenon. Interesting phenomenon, okay. All right, let me talk to you about this a little bit. All right, this side is fully online. We have a bunch of fully online programs. They're completely online. For instance, the RN to BSN program is completely online. The nurses never have to set foot on campus, okay? There's another something developing. Low residency courses. We have a lot of shadow online courses. Most of them are online, but the department will not declare it online because their capstone course must be face-to-face. They refuse to do it. So now we're trying to design low residency online programs where there's a small piece of it that is face-to-face, but most of it is online. And then we're also talking about the blended notion. And I heard your provost mention hybrid and blended. Okay, the same kind of thing. We're having a lot of those. We're having a lot of those where there is some face-to-face component, some synchronous component, and some online. Now this is an interesting phenomenon. Side effect. The first time we did blended courses, they came to class. What did they want to talk about? The content? No. They wanted to talk about the technology. My browser won't work. I can't log on. You're not responding to emails. Yada, yada, yada. All they wanted to do was talk about the technology. It was terribly disruptive. We had to figure that out. We had to smooth all of that out before the blended courses began to work very well. Blended courses are going in two directions. We have some courses where they meet here face-to-face. They're face-to-face in class, and then they do online. Or now we have faculty say, I don't want any more face-to-face. I'm going to do all the synchronous stuff online. I'm going to do it with chats and whatever my platform is, and then we're going to do the rest online. I don't want to meet online. They're called new media blended courses, and they're possible. Now this raises all kinds of problems. You mean you can teach students with never ever actually coming to a class? Yeah. Well, that presents interesting side effects. Now, on the other side of that and then we're working with something called the flipped classroom. Have you heard of that? The flipped classroom is where you do all of the stuff you would do in your face-to-face, that is your lecture. You put it out on podcasts or iPod. You put it out there some way, and basically they come in and do homework in class. They do work and they do lab. People are exploring that, a lot of that. Now, on the other side of this are technology-enhanced courses. We have a lot of people on our campus say we don't use any technology at all, never. Fine, they do. They're using it all the time. They're on Wikipedia, they're on Facebook, they're tweeting about you, how bad you are in class. They're doing all kinds of things with the technology. Now, do you remember what episode 42 of Star Trek was? It was called The Trouble with Tribbles. Tribbles were those things that went all over the Starship Enterprise, overwhelmed it. That's what these are. They're growing like Topsy. They're all over the place. They're just interesting. Okay, learning management systems. What do we do with those? You're Moodle, we're Blackboard. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to be? Lecture capture. We have a huge number of faculty who simply record their lectures and then broadcast them to students. You know what the side effect is? Parent comments. Why am I paying all this tuition and my kid is sitting in the dorm watching videos? That's the side effect of that. Now that's interesting because, you're doing the same old thing, now you're just broadcasting your lectures. It's great for pedagogy because professors actually get to see themselves teach. Remember micro teaches? Do you ever actually watch yourself teach? It's frightening, isn't it? It's frightening. It is amazing to do this. We're doing that. And Web 2.0. What do we do with the Web 2.0 environment? There are lots of ways to teach with that. All of those are happening. I think most of that is going on here, or will be shortly. You ever hear of Clay Shirky? Clay Shirky's an interesting guy. Written 2 books you probably ought to read. One is Here Comes Everybody, and the second was Cognitive Surplus. Talks about the networking thing. This is the way it was. We used to broadcast to them. Then they began to talk to us. They emailed us and said, I emailed you 5 minutes ago, you haven't responded. Did you get my email? Right? Yeah, and we're dealing with kinds of students in that area. And then this began to happen. They began talking to each other. And then they began talking to each other more. And then the doggone courses went nuclear. It went outside what you were doing. So the boundaries of a classroom have vaporized. And I can give you at least 3 examples, and they're all over the country. Just go on Facebook or YouTube and you can see them. My friend Gardner Campbell at Mary Washington was teaching a theater course, and they were blogging about it. He makes them blog, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute. So they're blogging about a play. The playwright was cruising the net looking for his name, as they do, found the blog. Joined the blog. So what happened is the students at Mary Washington were blogging with the playwright all semester. Whoa, whoa, okay? My buddy Bob Bledsoe, like me, retired. Don't do it. Do not retire. It is not El Dorado. It is awful. It is awful. You complain about this, but you're addicted to it. And once you stop, it's terrible. It's terrible. So I retired for 38 days, and they said, will you come back? And I said, yes, yes. Now my plan is to fall over dead and retire. Bob Bledsoe, my colleague in political science. Bob, you can come back like Chuck, but you have to use technology. So he finally came back, teaching a blended course, political science, teaching Vietnam. They are on their laptops, and he naturally assumed They were on Facebook. Okay, so he's teaching Vietnam, and a hand shoots up, and he said, "Dr. B, there are tanks in Bangkok. What's all that about?" The kid had found the coup in Thailand. And Bob said, "Ooh, that was a teachable moment. I could either change and begin talking about the revolution in Thailand or do it." The kid brought the thing into the class immediately. In our classes, I assume you all have websites or front pages to your course. This has happened to me 4 or 5 times, teaching multivariate statistics. Someone has come up to me and said, "Chuck, there's this guy at UNCC who's teaching applied multivariate. And frankly, his portal is a lot better than yours." Okay? He's got Flash. He's got some really cool Java applets in there. Why don't you go up and take a look at it? Okay, I think you can learn some things from that. And they're willing to tell me that. They're willing to tell me that. In a sense, my course is out there. Everything I do is out there. It is out there at all times. Let me show you some interesting models that you can start with or think about. All right. Jay Brophy. Okay, he's at UCF. Jay Brophy is interesting. He believes in engaging students. As onerous as that sounds, he begins in relating to his students. So he starts his course, blended course, large section in beginning psychology with this syllabus. Who are you? How did you get that way? Can you change if you want to? Can you change someone else once the bloom is off the rose? What groups do you belong to? And why? And why do people do stupid things? That's a syllabus. Now, it's not really a syllabus, but he starts that way, and suddenly they go, "Whoa, this guy might be cool." And then he says this: "Do not turn these off. Leave them on. Let them ring. And whenever they ring, he answers it. And he integrates whatever in that phone call into his course, whatever it is. It extinguishes more cell phone calls than you can possibly believe in a course. Because suddenly, it is, "Oh, your mommy's calling you?" That's another story. Then he has cell phone day. If you all come in and get your cell phone to ring at the same time, I will give you 100 free points. And they go ballistic. I've got a video of it. I'll send it up to Valerie, and you can see it. Like a YouTube concert. They're waving their cell phones. What Jay has done immediately, he is connected to his students. His course is as rigorous as any course on campus. He does everything. He backward engineers. He scaffolds the course. But he is related to the students. He has said, "I understand that you love this technology. I love it too. Therefore, we're going to bring it into class. We're going to bring it into class." It's an amazing phenomenon. He's like a Jesuit. "I understand you. Now I will convert you." But he has taken the one step of relating through his students through their technologies in a creative way. A lot of work, yes. But trust me, it does work. It does work. He's able to pull it off. Not everyone's able to pull it off, but he does. Okay, let's see. Bob French. Bob French teaches public relations at Auburn University. And Bob says this: "Nobody was really interested in online public relations till we realized online hours were billable. Then we all got interested in it," okay? So what Bob does, he teaches public relations with his students on a Facebook-like platform that he has developed with other universities, where what they do is they write copy, they review each other's copy. People from industry in Auburn review the students' copy. They put their e-portfolio on it. They do videos. They do stories. They chat with each other. They work exactly like a public relations professional would through the entirety of the course. And when they leave it, they have an entire portfolio with which to apply for a job. They never take a test in the course, ever. Never take a test. He edits the crap out of it. He does everything. It's like they are in a public relations firm the entire course. An amazing piece of work. Gardner Campbell. Gardner Campbell at Virginia Tech will be offering a new media blended course this fall. from Virginia Tech. I'm going to take it. I'm going to participate with Gardner. What we're going to do is we're going to read, we're going to chat, we're going to communicate online, we're going to blog, and we're going to tweet. We are going to have a new media course. People from all over the country will be taking it. Last one to sign is UC Berkeley. I would hope some folks from UNC would sign on. We will talk to each other, we will chat, and we will actually experience the blogging. I saw this presentation, and the director of the electronic library at Baylor talked about this course, and he talked about how terrified he was to blog, to actually start blogging and have someone respond to them immediately the minute he blogged. It's an interesting experience. I would love to see you on this course. I would love to join you in this. I hope you will join us. This Going On Gardner is a masterful person. Let me show you this. Let me show you this. There is a company called Laureate, which is a private company. Laureate essentially finds universities that are struggling around the world. It now has a network of approximately 60 universities throughout the world, okay? Many of them in Europe, in the Southern Cone, all over. What they basically do, and Laureate will be mad at me for saying this, they go to a university and say, you're struggling, we will help you keep your doors open. We will keep you afloat. We will infuse large amounts of money. Our requirement is that you offer online programs in any number of areas. Laureate builds all the online courses for these universities and throws them over the wall. And these universities run them. Okay, they run them. And if you were to go to Laureate and say, oh my God, this can't be true. If you talk to them, they have a staff of 500 people, instructional designers, digital media people, SCORM compliant people, quality control people. It's almost, when I was there looking at it, my father was essentially a Polish immigrant, and he worked in a shop his whole life. And what he did is he ran a lathe. And one day a machine came in called an automatic chucker, which was a paper tray-driven machine which indexed and all those guys stood around and looked at the future. You know, they knew something was up. This is interesting. I wonder if something is up. I wonder if something's up, because we've got a whole new culture operating in this country and around the world. These people are vibrant. They're vibrant. They can offer any course anywhere. They provide access like I've never seen in the world, where people have alternatives to us. They have alternatives to us. So these are some of the things that are going on. You might want to look at Laureate. It's interesting. An evaluation plan. All right. Did you ever hear of a book called Collapse? Jared Diamond wrote it. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And he talks about something called landscape amnesia. And landscape amnesia probably happens here. We have a faculty center. I started the faculty center. It's 10 years old. But nobody can remember UCF without a faculty center. In their heads, we've always had a faculty center. And I'm sure that's true here. We've always had one. It's like it's part of our culture. We always, always have it. But now what I get is you have to evaluate the impact of all of these technology courses. Now, let me give you the line. Are online courses as good as, fill in the blank for me. Say it, you just did it. Face-to-face courses, right? That's the thing we're facing in all of this. Is the quality as good as they were in face-to-face courses? Well, I have two comments about that. One is, we never really worried much about face-to-face courses until online courses came on board, okay? There were no acoustic guitars until there were electric guitars, okay? There was no black and white TV until there was color TV. There was just TV. It's interesting to me that they became the gold standard. The face-to-face courses became the gold standard. So we have to look at this. And this is the way we look at it. I'm going to show you all these things. Ooh. Okay, success. Do they succeed in these courses? I have to deal with that. Secondly, do they retain in these courses? Don't they drop out of online courses more than they drop out of other courses? Well, maybe. And we found out some of the reasons. One of the reasons is when our faculty migrate to teaching online, they don't feel like they're really teaching anymore. So they put a course and a half in a box and absolutely kill the students. Absolutely, I just absolutely kill them, to do this, okay? So we have to look at retention, and I'll show you what we do there. Learning preferences. What do we do with learning styles? Should we do anything with the learning preferences of students? Now, if you look at learning styles, what you can find is it runs the gamut. From people who just absolutely despise learning styles, there's nothing to be learned from it, nothing at all, to people who say ENTJ is spoken here. Everything you should do is by learning styles. Well, we have abandoned all of that, and we've adopted a medical school model, which I'm happy to share with you. Okay. Based on something called reactive behavior patterns. This is a book that will be on Amazon very shortly called Your Predictable Adolescent. If you've ever raised children or are anticipating raising children, you need to read this book. You need to read this book. It's based on something called reactive behavior patterns of students. It has to do with how adolescents respond under ambivalent situations. You know what ambivalence is? Sure you do. Sure you do. This day after graduation, it's Monday, nobody's here. There's this summer workshop. You're coming to hear this keynote you've never heard of. You had some ambivalent feelings this morning. Certainly you did. Certainly you did. What if he sucks? What if he's terrible? I'm going to waste the morning. You had those kinds of feelings. Those conflicting positive and negative feelings that happen all the time. If you ever raised children, you've had an ambivalent feeling. Trust me. Trust me. Now, this is a book that came out of the medical school, the University of Mississippi, for training physicians who deal with adolescent patients, who deal with adolescents. And they build types, and in this book there's types. I've developed a measurement protocol. So if you want to use it, it takes fully 30 seconds to administer. You can get the reactive behavior patterns in your class. And it works kind of this way. We don't tailor materials, we learn to communicate with them. I'll give you one example. One type in this is a student who has high energy levels and doesn't need approval. In my classes, they're the kind of student who I talk to them and they're gone. They don't come up to me. They don't need my approval. They're not dependent. Other students who are dependent show me their work. They come to office hours. They want to know. They want my feedback online. They email it. They fax it. They slide it under my door. They call me to see if I've gotten it. I mean, they need that feedback from me. It's important to them. Now, one of them is called an aggressive independent student, one type. And in my classes, this type would act out the same way. I'd put something on the board, and he'd say, I don't believe it, derive it. Derive it right now. And I'd go up to my board and say, boy, I hope I can derive it. Because if I can't, I've lost this guy forever. I've lost him forever. So here's one kid I'm working with, is exactly this type. I'm tutoring a student now for the SAT, a faculty son. His name is Fred. And Fred stopped me the other day and said, I'm bored, okay? I don't think we're doing any good. Frankly, I don't think you're that smart. You don't look like a professor. In fact, you look goofy. That's exactly what he said to me. Now, how do I deal with Fred? The worst possible way to deal with Fred is to finesse him. To say, oh, Fred, I'm doing this for your own good. We're only trying to help. That is such a turnoff to this type of student. It is just no ring to them. Here's what I did. Took a risk. You have to take a risk, and you have to be confrontational, which is very hard for me to be. Fred, your nose is too small. Therefore, you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain. That's why you're not one of the quickest bears in the woods. Now, the result of that was a terrific fight. However, we fought, got over it, went on with their work. That's their style. They want it, they want to express, they want you to express, and then they move on. They don't want to continually always deal with it. Now, there are 3 other types in this, and the system works really quite well. There's another type of student who has low energy levels and is highly sensitive. And I've done this, and you may have done this. They need your approval so desperately that in class, because we're so adroit and clever, our comment is slightly sarcastic. The student interprets that as personal rejection and shuts down for the remainder of the course. okay, because you've rejected them. Now we deal with this, and we've developed a quite good system for dealing with that and dealing with kinds of students, and there are other ancillary. Now, why adolescence? Why do we go to adolescent theory? Well, I'm a faculty member, because there are so many adolescents running around on this campus, and so many of us are faculty. I mean, come on, it's the best job in the world, is it not? It is the best job in the world. All right, now, let me go back. Oop, I gotta go back. Okay, predictive models. Certainly you want to develop some prediction of who's tailored to these courses. And personal geographies. What do students do to build their own learning environments? Because they have lots of options. Now, in the middle, satisfaction, both student and faculty. If your students are not happy, you're not going to be happy. Demographics, who's best suited for it. Case narratives. You've done a lot here. You should start telling those narratives. By the way, I am track chair of the Sloan C Conference in Orlando in November for learning effectiveness. I would love to get a proposal from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Okay, wink, 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 wink. If you could get one together from this group, I would love to entertain it, to have you come to Orlando and present, okay? Now, here's what my faculty you say to me. Fine, all that stuff is great. It has nothing to do with what's going on in my class. Nothing. I'm sorry your provost say we're not here. And they're absolutely right. They are absolutely correct. So, here's the offer we make to my faculty, and I want this to happen here. If you want to do some research in pedagogy in your course related to effective teaching and learning, be it physics, optics, philosophy, English, medicine, whatever it is, my office, Wright, will help you. We will help design your study. We'll do it for you. And if you can't get the data collection protocols or the data, we will do it for you. We'll go to your class and collect your data. I will get those little buggers to fill out those questionnaires. I will do whatever it is. You need stuff from the institutional database, we'll get it for you. You need institutional review board approval, we'll help you get it. We'll get it. Okay? We'll help you get it published. We can't write the manuscript. We'll analyze your data. We'll give it back to you in publication quality format. It's yours to do whatever you want. Your intellectual property. Everything you want. Okay? I'll help you get it published. I can't write the manuscript for you, but I have an editor who'll turn it into English for you, okay? And we'll get you published. Okay? And I have a travel budget. If you want to go present, I will send you to present at your professional meeting. If you go to Budapest or Lahaina, I will go present with you. Okay? If you go somewhere else, you're on your own. What we have done, and what you are ready to do here, I am convinced, is build this marvelous culture of the scholarship of teaching and learning related to technology and effective teaching. It's amazing. People will beat a path to your door. They will. One example. Time. John Schaefer in theater came to me and said, Chuck, I want to produce the play Antigone. I want half the audience to be at Bradley University. I want half the audience to be at UCF. I want half the actors to be at Bradley. I want half the actors to be at UCF. I want to broadcast it over internet too. Can you help me do some research? And by God, he pulled it off. And now he's become a rock star. He's dealing with instant notoriety. Instant notoriety. He is celebrated in technology and vilified in theater for ruining theater. Okay? But he's done an amazing piece of work. Faculty are doing all kinds of interesting stuff. Okay, I gotta go faster now. All right, success. All right, success. Oh, now I'm nervous because I'm running behind. I have time? Well, I don't know. You see their faces. No, they're fine. They're fine. Have you ever read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance? Yeah. Yeah. You ought to. Robert Pirsig's book, there's a great quote in there on quality, okay? And it goes, there is such a thing as quality, but every time you try to measure it, something goes haywire. You just can't do it. It's the quality issue. It is the absolute quality issue. What are the components of quality? What makes quality what it is? How can I deal with it? So we have to deal with that. We do, in fact, have to deal with it. So how do I deal with this? Let me show you what I do. All I have in my campus is grades. And grades are a terrible measure of quality, are they not? Yeah, I guess they are. I really, but that's all there is. So what I do is this, I declassify grades. If you got an A, B, or C, you were successful. Anything else is not success. Not failure, it's not success. Okay, I do this and then I report this. And let me show you the results that we get. This is just one result. Here is over our campus over many, many years on close to 1,700,000 student registrations. 3 modes, face-to-face, online, and blended. What this shows us is, if it's done right, there's appreciably no difference in the success rates of online and face-to-face courses. And if it's done right, what you can expect is a marginal 4 to 5% increase in your success and retention rates with a blended or a hybrid course. Now, it's not a lot, but when you talk to a dean and tell them, look, you can gain 5% on retention and throughput, and you amortize that over several semesters, you have a pretty good rate. It does work. Now, this varies greatly from college to college. It does indeed. Some colleges, this is overall university. Some colleges, yes. Some colleges, no. I assume that's true here. It's true here. Now, student satisfaction. Yeah, I'm trying to pay attention to that. Are they satisfied? Okay. Why do students take these courses? There are 3 reasons. Convenience, convenience, and convenience. Those are the reasons they take these courses. I have yet to have a student ever say to me, I'm taking my online course because I think I will function at higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. It doesn't happen. I take this course because I don't have to find a place to park, and it's going to be easier. And it's not easier. Okay. Then we look at, are they satisfied with their online and blended experiences? This is what they get. This is what we get. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They are satisfied with them. Repeatedly with them. More so the more they take them. Okay. The ones who are genuinely dissatisfied are very few. What they are is ambivalent. They're ambivalent about them. Again, they are always ambivalent about them. My classic questionnaire is framed in my office. Did you like your online course? No. Did you learn anything in your online course? No. Did you like the instructor in your online course? No. Would you take another online course? Absolutely. That's a classic expression of the ambivalent feelings. Our job is to reduce the ambivalence they have toward that. If you look at blended, you get very much the same pattern. Very, very much the same pattern. All right? The reasons: convenience, reduced logistical demands, okay? Increased learning flexibility, and technology it enhances their learning. My friend, Lance Lochner at the University of Western Ontario, world-class economist, said, Chuck, all they're seeing is a reduced opportunity cost for getting an education. You know, opportunity costs cost you something to come here this week in terms of time, and it does, okay? That's what it does. They say 3 things. The institution is reaching out to meet my lifestyle needs. I feel more active in my learning, and I'm empowered to go beyond the course. First thing they say they don't like, reduced face-to-face time. The ambivalence. I love the convenience, I miss going to class at the same time. They say that over and over again. Technology problems, they hate it when the technology goes down. And damn it, the technology always goes down. They have trouble connecting with their instructors, they feel like. They are overwhelmed, and they feel like it's more work rather than less work. By the way, faculty feel the same way. That teaching online is much more work than it ever was before. Now, I'll give you examples. Let me give some quotes. I like submitting assignments online, but worry about my computer skills. I just don't know what to do. I know how you feel. Okay. The subject matter in this partially online course was extremely complex. Despite passing the class, I don't understand the majority of it. Don't you hate that? Just hate that. Online learning gives the same attention to every student, although I learn well by myself. Others may not, and others may need face-to-face interaction. That's tough. That's tough. Do you remember your Tolstoy? The first line of Anna Karenina. All happy families are alike. Unhappy families are unhappy in their own unique ways. The greatest line in literature. Okay, one of the greatest lines in literature. What did Tolstoy mean by that? He meant in order for a marriage to be successful, many things have to be resolved. Sex, money, attractiveness, leisure time, work, in-laws, children, on and on and on. What he meant was, if you're happy in your marriage, you've pretty much resolved all of that. So they're basically the same. But any one of those can derail a marriage. Any one of them, you know? The profiles are vastly different. A lot of money and great sex is a different marriage from terrible sex and a lot of money. I mean, they're different. They're different. So what Tolstoy, the same is true in a class. Using the Tolstoy phenomenon, the Sloan Foundation asked us to look at what are the components of a student when they're satisfied with your course. And Anna Karenina was right. Anna Karenina was right. This stuff is very interesting. Another great book by Jared Diamond called Germs, Guns, and Steel, about how cultures developed. And domestication of animals was a big contribution. And there are 9 things that are necessary in order to domesticate an animal. All 6 must, or 9 must be accommodated. If you don't meet them all, you can't domesticate the animal. You can't, you know, for instance, it has to breed in captivity. If it won't breed in captivity, it's not a good candidate for domestication. Okay, we found them. Here's what they are. Okay. Students are satisfied when this happens in a course, when they have reduced ambivalence about the value of what it is you're teaching. Okay, when they see an environment that's enriched, a learning environment. When they know the rules of engagement for the course. They want to know what the rules of engagement are. Okay, they want to feel a sense of commitment. All these slides are available to you, by the way. And after this, I'm going to ship up a bunch of stuff to the center, and you can have, you know, all the stuff is written, you can have it. A sense of commitment. They don't want to feel any ambiguity about you and your course. They want you to feel engaged in it, and they want to have some learning latitude. Now, any one of those can derail a course. It's really interesting. You can be great on all of them. If you didn't tell them what's expected of them, they're going to trash you. They're going to trash you in a course. If they feel like you weren't engaged, they're going to trash you in a course. It's really important. Okay. We are dealing with generations. There are 4 in varying numbers running around on campuses. I am a mature. I am fiercely loyal to my organization. And my students will say to me, fiercely loyal. Remember? Take care of John Deere, and John Deere will take care of you. Take care of Enron, and Enron will take care of you. Things have changed. Things have changed. Okay? I believe in hard work. If it's not hard, it's not worth doing. Okay? That's interesting. I have a student, a graduate student, who sticks his head in my offices and says, achieving again? It's what I do. It's what we do. Okay? There are not many of us left. Okay, that duty before pleasure stuff, it's really, really sad. The baby boomers, a lot of them. Faculty, a lot of administrators, optimistic, nostalgic for their youth, right? Worried about retirement these days, discovered credit spending, moved to the suburbs, optimistic. I mean, that's the baby boomer. You know, all these oldie goldie stations are for baby boomers, okay? I love to write listening to Led Zeppelin. My students say he's listening to geezer rock. But it's an interesting narrative because there's a little gulf there. There's a little separation. He's cool, but not quite. Okay, all right. Generation X, my associate colleague, Patsy Moskal is Generation X. My children are Generation X. Don't trust a man. Don't trust the organization. You're in it for yourself. It's personal relationships. Grew up with a blast of technology like no other organization. Therefore, if it's not fun, it's not worth learning. You got to be fun. Okay, you got to be fun. And then the last generation, the ones that are here now, the millennials. I'll talk about them very briefly. Neil Howe, the eminent sociologist, has good stories. How many baby boomers does it take to change a light bulb? The answer is 11. 10 to sit in a circle and go, Om, and 1 to say, I am the light. Values. How many Gen Xers? Just one. They just say screw it. And how many net generation millennials? And the answer is, oh, no, no, their parents would never let them do anything as dangerous and dirty as changing a light bulb. Okay? You know, helicopter parents. Okay, why did Johnny get a C? Why didn't Mary get into a sorority? I mean, that's sort of one of the most protected generations in history. So we're dealing with them. We're dealing with them. We've done a lot of work. Some people don't believe any of it. Some people believe it all. Okay? I said at the University of South Carolina, I said I worried about the critical thinking skills of the net generation. And I got this note back from a student at the University of South Carolina. Dear Chuck, you know this is going to go badly. One of the things you said about net generation students is that they have suspect critical thinking skills. An example you use is that they cannot analyze a Russian literary figure. Is this really the correct way to measure whether someone or not of my generation has critical thinking skills? I will agree that most of us cannot analyze complex textual materials, but how relevant is that to our lives? If our livelihood depended on telling you the major motifs of 17th century Spanish literature, more of us could do it. However, our critical thinking skills have been diverted to things that are more relevant to our daily lives, using an Excel spreadsheet, for example. As you said, someone of the mature generation might sit down and read the manual for a new cell phone. Someone of my generation will learn through interaction with the phone itself or through a social network, not by isolating oneself and passively reading the narrative of the manual. On a show like 24, there's an enormous social network that one must follow in order to understand what is happening. In video games, one must manage a large number of sub-goals that produce multiple paths to a final solution. My main question to you is this then, Chuck. Is the current way or definition of measuring critical thinking skills outdated? Perhaps critical thinking skills should not be measured by the ability to analyze David Copperfield, but by the ability to use all of the features of your new cell phone. Well, that's an interesting comment. That's an interesting sort of narrative on the way we are viewed in many respects in this. If you look at this, this narrative is going on continually in the background in our society. It is everywhere. It is everywhere. Just begin looking for it. There's a Sprint commercial that's old now, but it was the mature CEO saying, this is my Sprint free and clear plan. It's my way of sticking it to the man. And the Gen Xer next to him is saying, but aren't you the man? So you're sticking it to yourself? It was a generational thing. It was a generational thing. There's a great Toyota commercial. The baby boomer father's in the Toyota Camry and the kid is in there. And the kid say, oh, this is cool. It's got Bluetooth. It's got nav. It's just going to be so easy. And the baby boomer father says, it's not that easy. It's not as simple as pressing a button. And the kid looks at the start button and said, well, what's this? And the old man throws him out of the car. Generational narrative. New York Times op-ed piece about drug addicts, saying that baby boomer drug addicts could not stand to be in the same rehab facility with net generation headbanger addicts, that they made too much noise, that they had to be in a quiet place, otherwise they would use drugs. Okay? There's an op-ed piece in the New York Times, where have all the Freemasons gone? Concluding that the average age of Freemasons was comatose. Okay? And think about this. Concluding that baby boomers have found new ways to avoid their families. Think about that. Did you read The Onion? Headline, eccentric student reads entire book. Okay. Some of the literature you may be interested in is pieces like Marianne Wolf, Proust and the Squid, who talks about the dissolution of the reading mind. Okay, the dissolution of the reading mind. It's an interesting topic. Interesting topic. Nick Carr in The Shallow is talking about the fact that I can't stay with long textual material anymore. You know, whatever. Okay. Okay. Time? Oh.
Brief summary and then question.
Brief summary. Okay. For the next 45 minutes, I will summarize. All right, quickly. All right. This is what our student population looks like. Mostly millennials. This is what our faculty looks like. Mostly baby boomers. So in this dialogue, we have this going on. We're talking about all our millennial faculty. We don't have many. We don't have many. Okay, now, the satisfaction curves look like this. That generation, the new generation, is the least satisfied with anything we do, almost everything we do. Everything we do. All right. Oh. I'm going to do it quick. I'll do it quick. Do you remember the Smith Corona blue portable Coronet XL typewriter? If you do, your generation is showing. But this is a good story. CEO of Smith Corona said, congratulations, you basically perfected the small portable electric type. My congratulations to you. His next word were, unfortunately, we have perfected the irrelevant. Smith Corona went bankrupt in 1995 because their value proposition did not keep up. It did not keep up. They're in business, but they're really not much in the typewriter business anymore because there's no need for typewriters, protecting the irrelevant. Quickly, when our faculty complain about our students, we give them this quiz. Have you ever created your own web page by yourself? Used a collaborative multiplayer game like Second Life or World of Warcraft? Downloaded or installed an open source software program? Contributed to a public wiki? Kept a public blog? Contributed to development of any open source project? Used any internet-based communication device like Skype, WebEx, Uvu, DimDim, Yada, blah, blah, or something, okay? Have you ever used a shopping bot to buy anything? Can you use an advanced search technique to say find 500 credit card numbers, okay? Have you ever participated in any interest-based game or special interest group? Have you ever tweeted? Okay. Have you ever participated in a social network? And they say to me, you don't expect me to do all of that, but I expect you to be aware of it because that's all going around you right now. They're tweeting about you. By the way, student ratings, my favorite comment on Rate Your Professors is, this guy is so boring, my pillow needs a pillow. Everyone says Rate My Professors is terrible. It's really interesting. I mean, if you look at the narrative that's on there in terms of the way they perceive us. Okay. Challenges. Lots of challenges. Okay. Academic integrity is a challenge we have to deal with. Okay. Don't they cheat online? Yeah. Don't they cheat everywhere else? Yeah. I mean, that's an issue that we're going to have to deal with. Assessment models that are more authentic. Multiple choice tests don't work online. Yeah. We're going to have to come up with models that are more reflective, more authentic, and more contextual. You know, the day of the test is gone. Explosive growth. What do we do with it? Same thing happened. What do we do with large classes? How do we manage them? Okay. Adrift in Academia. Have you seen that book? You need to read it. The conclusion of that book is at the end of the sophomore year, students are no better at writing or math than they were at the beginning of the freshman year. I don't know if it's true or not, but you know, dangerous ideas. You know, we have dangerous ideas. Wikipedia is a dangerous idea. I guarantee you, you can go across this camp, but Wikipedia yes, Wikipedia no. Wikipedia yes, Wikipedia no. What do we do with the Wikipedia? What do we do with the democracy of information? Okay, here it is in the Times. Somebody cut and pasted from Wikipedia and put it in a scientific journal. Well, duh. Information fluency. Do we live in ambient findability where we can find anything, anytime, anywhere, or we live in this age of information toxicity, you know, where it's, okay. Proofiness, okay? Do we live in, you know what proofiness is? There's a great book now called Proofiness, Charles Sheaf, you ought to read it, okay? You ought to read it. It talks about our inability to manage risk. Think about this. We're terrified of airplane crashes, but we talk in the car on our cell phone. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. The relative risks of those are nowhere near each other. And we do this, you know, okay? This is good. This is proofiness. Good quote. If you want people to believe something really, really stupid, just stick a number on it. Even the silliest absurdities seem plausible the moment they're expressed in numerical terms. And boy, we're in a numerical age. We're in a numerical age, okay? We're doing that, okay? Okay, multitasking. This generation is viewed as great multitaskers. Linda Stone calls that continuous partial attention. Can you pay attention to anything? Can you pay attention? I mean, those are the issues that we have to deal with. They're all very important issues. Okay. Black Swan, other book. Nassim Taleb, The Black Swan. A black swan, he called it the black swan is because everybody believed all swans were white. And every time they found a white swan, they said, oh, white swans are white, until they found the black swan in Australia. Okay? A black swan is something like this. It's an event that changes history forever, that was completely unpredicted. Completely unpredicted. That is, it changed it, nobody predicted it. The classic example right now is 9/11. Changed us forever, but it was unpredicted. And people will follow me out of a room saying, yeah, we could have predicted it. We could have if we did. The point is, you didn't. You didn't. Harry Potter was a black swan. Someone said, they could really predict it. Do you really think J.K. Rowling started writing Harry Potter on a napkin thinking I'm going to be a billionaire? No. No. Google was unpredicted. Okay? And there are black swans that are negative, but that didn't happen. Remember Y2K? Okay? All that thing about Y2K and it never happened. Now, Silicon Valley types said, yeah, it's because we did a lot of stuff behind the scenes. But it never happened. It never came to... There are lots of black swans going out, and they're all over the world. Here's another one that just happened. Wasn't that a black swan? Talk about complex systems. We have no idea how that's going to ripple through that complex system called our environment. No idea. None whatsoever. I think the last black swan is this. I think that's going to change everything. I think that's changing the nature of our lives and our careers forever. I just think that's going to do it. So, I have to quit. Because, boy, I'm getting the looks. But just two things, just two things. Let me read this to you from a marvelous, marvelous book called The Ghost Map. Okay? Stephen Johnson. Unbelievable book. Unbelievable. This is an interesting quote. Here's where we are. History has its epic thresholds where the world is transformed in a matter of minutes. A leader is assassinated, a volcano erupts, a constitution is ratified. But there are other smaller turning points that are no less important. 100 disparate historical trends converge into one single modest act. Some unknown person unscrews the handle of a pump on a side street in a bustling city, and years and decades that follow, 1,000 changes ripple out from that simple act. It's not that the world's changed instantly. The change itself takes many, many years to become visible. But the change is no less momentous for its quiet evolution. That's what you are doing. That's exactly what you are doing. In this workshop, you're quietly changing the world forever. One last quote from Taleb. I have to leave you with this. We are quick to forget that just being alive is an extraordinary piece of good luck. A remote event, a chance occurrence of monstrous proportions. Imagine a speck of dust next to a planet 1 billion times the size of Earth. The speck of dust represents the odds in favor of your being born. The huge planet would be the odds against it. Stop sweating the small stuff.